Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Council on Future Conflict, episode 410. Just like the shotgun, and like the shotgun, we are clearing trenches this morning with the help of a full boat here in the council. Well,
Sort of.
let's be honest. It's not. It's not completely full because we have some uninvited guests who have decided to hang out here. I invite Don because I mean, if you've been following the drama of Don lately, if you know, right? And then of course these feds show up. Uh, I don't understand, guys. I just don't understand. We would have sent you an invitation. You wouldn't have had to show up, and you can unmute yourself and talk if you'd like. But I get the feeling that's not going to be the case. Anyway, today we're talking about we're talking about a lot of things. Hold on a second. Let me get through this before I say thank you. We're talking about the Russia tug of war that's going on. Kind of touching on the topic from last week a little more. And then we're also going to be talking about what a Harris administration might look like. Don was nice enough to come on. I invited him to come on. I didn't have a whole lot of time to be with us, and he can't really talk about a whole lot. But Don, I wanted to, if we could share the Give Send Go page. I know the link is in the chat. If you've been following what's been going on with Don, you know that he's got some legal issues. I'll leave it at that. And you guys have really turned out to help Don the Pleb's legal fees. Don, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother. Humbling, huh?
More than a little. I have spent a lot of my life very much under the assumption that if you want it done, do it yourself. Well, specifically, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And it has been humbling is a good word. It has been truly wild. I have been posting a lot of, stop cutting onions in my office kind of memes. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I can't thank you guys enough, honestly. It has been truly wild in ways that I can't accurately describe. So first and foremost, thank you incredibly much, all of you. There are some specific people out there who are probably listening right now. I didn't get your permission to name you, so I won't, but you definitely know who you are. For everybody that is hoping that this is the statement that I have promised was coming, this is not the statement. I'm sorry. I still can't answer much of anything other than no, they weren't kidding. Yes, it happened. And yes, I'm okay. But that's for the moment, that's going to have to do. I promise there will be some clarifications, some actual statement things that come hopefully this week, but I don't want to make any promises. Anything I actually say about this, I need to have reviewed by lawyers because that's how this game goes.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I have a couple of feds just following me around, and that's my entourage now. I'm famous insofar as I have some feds following me around. So I do need to be careful about what I say in public, at least for the moment. At some point, someday, I would like to believe I will be able to talk about this as openly as I want. And I am somewhat excited about that day. I'm not going to kid you. The other thing that this should probably be addressed is I know a lot of you guys are like, oh my God, you must be like, depressed or alone or something. Like, I am in higher spirits now than I have been in I don't know how long. You guys are freaking amazing. And by that, I mean, not just the council, you, the audience, the number of you that have reached out privately, publicly. When I first got home, I said, look, I'm going through the mentions. This is going to take a while. It was because you guys, every single one of you were out there like, hey, man, we're there. We support you. We're with you. And to that, I know a lot of you have privately said things to me like, Don, I don't get paid till Friday, and I'm really looking forward to being able to support you in this, that, and the other. Thank you all so much for even wanting to. Don't feel bad. I said something along the line, but I'm sure you guys didn't keep $500 hanging around in case somebody that you like on the internet got arrested by the federal government. And
Right.
I honestly believe, I don't think you had a when Pleb gets arrested fund. I understand. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't feel bad about that. Don't feel any kind of way at all about that. I am substantially more blown away that A, you guys want to, and B, you want to so bad having me over it. Like, it's man, I'm telling you, there's more coming. Like, I honestly don't know how to respond to these kinds of things. So many of you have gotten messages that are just like, thank you, because I don't know what to say. And it is beyond anything that I reasonably could have expected or even hoped for. So many of you that are feeling bad because you're not already in there. Don't. I don't. I hold no grudges against any of you. I don't. There's not a bad word to say, and I'm not even going to try. It has been incredible. There are a couple of people that I haven't talked to in years who have come out in force. I will go out of my way to mention Aaron McIntyre. Again, the rest of them, I didn't get any permission to talk about them. But he's a public enough figure that he'll deal with it. So I don't have much to say beyond thank you. Other than that somebody today, right before the show started, said, well, God was watching out for you, and that is, I can't give any details, but I will tell you that is an absolute hard fact. I have watched a lot of FBI raids through body cam. And so I can confirm with 100% accuracy that God was watching out for me. There are no two ways about that. It is not debatable. In the closest thing that I can give you to a detail, my dogs lived.
Right. Well, I tell you what, John, I mean, I will say that this applies to me, but I think it also applies to Watcher and Joe and maybe several others on the council, that people have been contacting me and saying, hey, what's going on with Don? How's he doing? How can I help? So it's not just coming to you. It's anybody associated with you is definitely feeling it as well. So we're all here with you, brother.
I've gotten that impression. And look, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. I said, you spend enough time on the internet, you get used to the internet hating you, right? Because there's comment sections under political videos are the worst place on earth. Like, I know it's not 90% of you, but that 10% is out there to post some hate comment, every third word, right?
Yeah.
And the unrelenting oceanic tide of positive things that you guys are sending out is, as I was scrolling through the mentions, it's all good, and then you can tell when the leftists find like the post, because it's all like, I hope you die in prison. I'm like, there's the internet, I know. Yeah. But for the rest of you guys, it's you get used to having kind of a core audience who likes you and says something that is useful and positive, and the reality is most people just don't leave comments or post in chat, and kind of just try and assume that those people are supportive. In unequivocal kinds of fashions, those people are supportive. People who I had somebody reactivate a Twitter account to tell me that they were in support of me, and they told me so, and I know who they are, and I recognize the name, and he's been around a long time. Like, hey, I hate this place. I left a long time ago. I reactivated my account just to tell you that, like, hey, I'm here with you. And again, how do you even respond to these things, right? What do you say? From the bottom of my heart, thank you. It is incredible. I don't want to claim any grand titles like I'm Kyle Rittenhouse or anything, but I have to imagine, at least for this portion, that's about what it felt like. And It matters. It does. So thank you all.
Well done. I'm glad you could come in this morning and say hey to the chat. I know they're supportive, so thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely. In convenient timing, I do have to go because it's still a very busy life for me. So thanks for letting me come down and say something. Hopefully this week we'll get something more than this that I can say. So until then,
when you can, I hope you'll come back and share with us. So we're with you, brother.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good show. I have to.
Hey, before Don goes, I want to say I did have a in case Don goes to jail fund. Just throwing it out there.
I absolutely believe that you did. I just don't think that average viewer did.
He spent it though. That's the only problem.
Right on cargo shorts probably.
And bow things.
Well, that's definitely true. That's actually where he spent it.
Right.
Anyway, I do need to get out of here.
All right, brother.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We'll talk
I
soon.
will be back. I will.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. All right. That was great. I'm glad Don could make it. I know he's been, he's been through the ringer this week. So just awesome to see him, doing so well. And it's awesome to see the support he's given. And I wouldn't expect anything else from this chat here. And to that end, before I go around the horn here, Redoubt Ranch just donated $20 Canadian. No comment. So if you got a comment in the chat, throw it in there. And let's see. Oh, there we go. He says, I know it's Canadian funny money, but what can you do when you live in Canada? Amen, brother. I mean, I was talking to a Canadian guy just yesterday about, almost that same type of thing. And then I think we have a Rumble rant real quick here. Peter Shade's helicopter tour for $5 says, Ron got me to come around on some feds, specifically field CIA guys. Hope Ron can have one of the retired Girl Scouts he was on the beach with at the Bay of Pigs deliver a 4-pack of CIA golf balls. I don't know. You'll have to ask Ron. I bet he will be in the chat this morning at some point.
That's an oddly specific request.
I know.
It really is. Like there's some insider info there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Hoss, do you want to address Stormy's question in the chat at 7:22?
I can't see. I can't see anybody's chat. So
her question is just Hoss, huh? Question mark. So, you want to do this?
Well, I thought you would have. I can't believe you have not already addressed it. I'll let you handle that.
I will give you the floor, man. So you need to step up and address this. So.
It's just it's something Stan has dubbed me as I am relocating to Camp Ponderosa in Montana to better manage a new training center for us and really a center for building community out there and getting folks together and maybe creating safe house networks as we've learned this week, which might be necessary. But anyway, it's in relation to Camp Ponderosa. That's all.
All I will say is if you have any questions, all you have to do is Google Ponderosa, the TV show, and or Dan Blocker, and look up the picture of Hoss. And if you don't think that works, I can't help you.
I've got that new bayonet mount, and it has not been tried out yet. So.
Is that a threat? Is that a threat?
No, just an observation. Just an observation.
Very good.
You might want to be careful about escalation here, Sparky. I'm just saying, I know some guys. Anyhow.
Send a guy to talk to me about the thing. I know.
Yeah, but I tell you what, we could not be more happy for Hoss and my sis. So we'll be looking for them in September. That's a good thing.
What I know he was really excited about it when we had the meetup. So I'm looking forward to seeing the fruits of that labor come to life. I think it's going to be a great facility.
Well, you know what? While we're on the topic, let me just point it out that Linda and Al, the people who run the veteransfoodpantry.org, the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry, gives them a way to boost what's happening at their charity that will help us all out. So
I'll talk to them today, and I think we need to do something about getting a Camp Ponderosa Toyota Tundra or something to replace that Nissan Kicks. I'm just saying that Nissan Kicks is not going to cut it,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think there's got to be.
I told her the good thing about it being orange is that when it falls down in the bottom of a ravine, we'll be able to find her. So
absolutely,
it's safety orange. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Stan, I'm glad you could join us today. The fellas are going to need your help here. I'm going to have to bail here soon. So I'm glad that you could come in and help anchor the show. I know you're probably not with us for the whole show either, but
far more responsibility than I'm capable of executing, but I'll do my best.
Exactly right. Just like on Monday, by the way, Monday I was able to be here. I've got work stuff going on this week, and I will have work stuff going on next week. So I will try to be here as much as possible. But like I said, my time tonight is limited. So apologies, mea culpa. It's all my fault. But coming off the reserve roster, Hunter has jumped out of the chat. You guys know him and love him. He's always been there in the chat as one of our kind of like just awesome contributors. But now Monday, I think, was your first time on the show, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so got to listen to a little bit of it. I thought you did great. You guys, you and Watcher, and I think you guys. Who else? Ron was on, and I think Sean, right? I think it was the four of you guys.
Sniper was on for a bit. Joe was on for a good portion as well.
Yeah, and so I thought you guys did awesome. I appreciate you guys holding it down for me when I can't be there. So once again, thanks for all of you guys. Of course, we've got Sniper with us. Thanks for being here.
Forgive me. I'm gonna be a little bit rude, and I do apologize. I'm gonna take this moment to do what Don should do, but always forgets to do in peak Don fashion. If you have any loose change rattling around in your pockets, Don could use some help in fighting the legal fight. That is the fight that's remaining right now. Please go to GiveSendGo/Don Pleb. That's GiveSendGo.com/Don the Pleb. He could use some help. There's been a good show coming out for people supporting Don financially how they can. That fight is not over, and it is in fact just beginning. So please help out if you can.
Yeah, this and like Don said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Some of you guys may not be able to give today, but if you're able to give down the road, I think that'd be great. And I know we appreciated it, and I know Don really. I mean, even little things, it doesn't have to be $100 or whatever. Just you got $5. Every little bit makes a difference. So we appreciate all that you guys have already done. And so, Sniper, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm far better than I was on Monday. I actually reasonably believe I can trust myself to not say anything stupid today, so I'm here. As seems to be the theme of everybody, I will be in and out. I will actually have to hop out, and then we'll come back in toward the end, probably.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Hoss, Joe, how's life treating you there in the state of Michigan? I understand Trump came to your state and he got in trouble for just coming to the same town that Joe Biden came to before. That's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, he did come in there yesterday and decided to snarl up traffic for a while. But I am not in Michigan at the moment. I am in that dreaded state of Ohio.
Oh, good Lord.
As I make my way down to the Brush Beater Training Center to teach a class this weekend on community security operations. One of the segments that we do is on safe houses and having a safe house network. So you might want to get into class soon. So
you're going to check out that Cybertrunk, aren't you?
I am. Actually, he's not there. We're passing. He's on his way to Texas, where he is teaching a radio class and a scout class. So we are fitting in a lot of classes between now and first quarter of 2025, because I heard that might be a somewhat significant time in American history. So.
Well, I tell you, Joe, it's no surprise that a bunch of sad hams are out there trying to get you to give all your secrets away for free on Twitter or as a video on YouTube. I thought you had a very appropriate response to all of that the other day. So I'm glad you're keeping your cool on that kind of stuff better than I would if our positions were switched.
I mean, seriously, if you want to learn why Signal is bad, you have two options: let someone kick in your door at 4 a.m. or come to class and learn why it's bad and why you should use something different. Yeah. That's simple. So anyway, I have to jump out for a few minutes, but I will be right back.
All right, we'll see you, brother. And of course, as always, Watcher, how's my favorite producer doing?
Doing great. I'm ready to get going.
All right.
So we have a massive Montana sunrise going here. I'm going to jump out and change my camera settings. I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll see you.
So, Scott, it's been brought up in chat a couple of times. They've linked the thing, and somebody should catch one of those and pin it. I tried to, but I don't have permission.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
Let's talk about Don's fundraiser.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, pin it to the top of the chat.
I got to open YouTube to do that. Hold on a second. View on YouTube. All right. If you want to go ahead and pull up the first odds and end watcher while I do this, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. You want me to intro it as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Big Press is at the CVN 72 Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group plus guided missile sub USS Georgia will be arriving soon in the CENTCOM area of responsibility to provide additional capability and capacity. This has got to be in the Middle East region.
Yes.
We looked at this on stream the other day, I believe.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is that essentially what you have is all of the we got almost 4 aircraft carriers now in the CENTCOM AOR. In the shared tweet here from the 17th, I mean, this is a couple of days old, so yeah, you guys actually may have talked about this on Monday, and I might have missed it, but I thought it's worth talking about. And so you've got this graphic here, and you've got the Theodore Roosevelt in the Gulf of Oman. You got the Abraham Lincoln in the Straits of Malacca. And then you've got, the WASP, which is an amphibious ready group for the WASP, and that's in the Eastern Med. You've got the 6th Fleet, which has the, that's your kind of Middle East fleet. And then you've got various other sundry naval forces in both the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Sea of Oman. So I get the feeling that even though the Iranian kind of thing has kind of petered out, and I think it's I'm not the only one who's, I think, surprised by this, but I think we're seeing a commitment by the U.S. Navy specifically that this is still a thing, and it's like, it hasn't been resolved, and it's probably still coming. So it makes me wonder if there's national intel that is indicating that Iran is going to do more than what they are publicly admitting to or even mentioning. And I just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, I guess I'll go first. I can't remember us having this many carriers in the same spot since I think the surge, right?
Yeah, I mean that's about right. Yeah, Stan, we were talking about all the kind of the concentration of naval assets in and around the Middle East here. 2 aircraft carriers and an amphibious ready group. It ain't whistling Dixie. And my understanding is there's only 1 aircraft carrier in all of the Eastern Pacific, Western Pacific. So I don't know, what's your take on this, Stan?
I think the Chinese are going to have to do something here. I don't know that there's ever been an opportunity set up quite like this in an interregnum with a fractured sort of chain of command, with a senile guy that's too ill to run for president but can still be president and commander in chief.
Yeah.
And with this disposition of forces, I'm sort of amazed that we haven't seen a more aggressive stance in the Taiwan Straits. At the very least, the beginning of, interdictions and weapon searches on vessels, things of that nature. As far as the Middle East is concerned, look, I think we're so overcommitted to this that both in terms of the nature of the support and the amount of the support, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense.
I can't help but think that this is
I'm trying to be very balanced in this conversation.
Yeah.
I could go a slightly different way, but I mean, I just think that we've so here's the conundrum and the thing that displays our incompetence as a quote superpower unquote. We are spending billions of dollars a day to aggregate, what, 1/3 of the Navy and 40,000 troops in the Middle East again? What is this? 4.0 at this point? At the meantime, we are paying the Iranians not to attack Israel with pallets full of cash. And so what outcome do we expect here?
And we're advertising that instead of a cruiser, we have destroyers escorting our carriers, which is not a net positive.
No, it's not. It's not. So the Valerie Jarrett wing of the Democratic Party is getting exactly what it wants in this instance. And frankly, the Iranians are patient enough to just sit and, count the dough.
Well, I can't help.
And so where does that money go in the intermediate term?
Stan, I can't help but think that this is almost wishful thinking on the part of the administration, right? It's like this is the war they want to fight, so they just throw all their eggs at this basket. So hopefully, this is the war that kicks off.
It's not the war they want to fight. I can just point you to the last chapter of the Bible. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in that last chapter.
But they don't believe in the Bible.
I have heard of this weird book, right?
I mean, I know they renamed the little town Megiddo, but it's derivative from Armageddon. So I mean,
I'm going to provide a dumb civvy perspective, so forgive me if I trip over myself in my lack of knowledge. This seems like on the face that this is them saying, Israel's our best ally and we're going to provide support to them, and actually putting some ass behind it in a way that looks like they're trying to do something. It seems like it's sort of like a big show of force that. And by show of force, I just mean putting, ships in the area, but not in a way that they're actually wanting to actually accomplish something. I don't know. It seems like one of those things where it's like the big school bully who's making a big show of it, but if you punch him in the face, he's gonna run off crying because there's no way this administration actually wants to do anything about this.
Hey, Scott, let's ask Fred Thompson what happens in these scenarios.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You got to see that.
We have we actually I think we have a quote from him here. If I can find it. Yes.
This business will get out of control. It'll get out of control, and we'll be lucky to live through it.
Absolutely correct. The prophet Tom Clancy is never wrong in these moments.
That's oddly like there. I mean, that guy could be Hoss from Ponderosa. Who knows, right?
Listen, we actually lost a national treasure when we lost Fred Dalton Thompson. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I know.
The fact that he played himself in a movie where he was the judge of the trial that the movie was about, that is a piece of trivia most people don't appreciate.
Yep.
I mean,
Okay. Thompson only ever played Fred Thompson, just Fred Thompson as this thing today.
Well, that may be true, but it's kind of like Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah.
He never plays a character; he plays himself. Yeah. Anyways, I think this is really interesting, and I think the move towards the Middle East is very interesting in light of what's currently happening with the PRC and other Eastern Asian developments. The Philippines is absolutely in there. Vietnam is kind of showing a little more gusto in the South China Sea. No, they're not doing it in order to be friends with us. They're doing it so they can establish their neutrality when the war kicks off.
If I was China, I would try to get one of my biggest assets in place as the vice president of the United States, so they could clear the way for me to do whatever I wanted to in the South China Sea.
Man, that is true. That is absolutely true. And I have to say this, Scott. If you're watching what's going on in Vietnam, the new head of the Communist Party in Vietnam was just in Beijing, signed a whole bunch of new agreements. They're going to the India school of split in the middle.
Oh, 100%.
And to a degree, it's leaning more towards Beijing with this new guy, Toe Jam or Toe Lam or whatever his name was, and so so I think that the dominoes are starting to tilt in the South China Sea. I don't think anybody wants to fight this war. I don't think the Vietnamese want to fight this war for Taiwan.
The U.S. doesn't want to fight this war.
I'm going to object to say United States Marine Corps hopes for an island hopping campaign, but maybe not this one.
Not this one. Not this one. You may want to do it in the islands of the Great Lakes, but I'm just saying that's a whole different conversation. So.
There's a couple of islands on Flathead Lake. I'm just going to put this out there.
I was going to say there's a lot of islands in the Swanee River, right?
I'm well aware of that. Okay, but I don't want to focus the attention there.
Yeah, the last thing we want to see is the Marine Corps in Flathead Lake. All right. Anyway, gents, anything more about the silliness of our naval maneuvers? If not, going once, going twice, we will move on to our next. Now, this next one is kind of like a precursor to the Harris administration, because this is happening outside of the DNC. And so, it's kind of fun to see. Now, guys, we kind of called this. We said there was going to definitely be some strong pro-Palestinian, and that seems to be the characteristic that is most common of these protesters, this pro-Palestinian kind of thing, because that gives them a wedge against the progressive Democrats that are inside the hall. So that being said, is anybody here surprised at the kind of the size or the lack of size in this crowd that has been protesting?
I don't know where lack of size fits in. Wasn't the National Guard deployed against this? Am I mistaken?
Well, Actually, watch your go to the third link. I think on this. Yeah, there's 3 links here. If you could open the third one, and you can actually see the size of the protest crowd. They're outnumbered, I think, by police. Let's see. This is the kind of close-in shot. So see, there's a couple hundred there, but that's about it. It's not like a giant crowd of like 5,000 people.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was going to be a lot bigger.
Well, Scott, it's not Thursday yet.
Yeah, it ain't over.
They're keeping their powder dry.
Yeah.
The amount of U-Hauls that are in Chicago right now, and that's a sore subject for me, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
Laura Cox in the chat, you're surprised that they arrested people. They have no problem arresting their own because they're not actually going to prosecute anybody.
Yeah, they just hold them overnight.
Keep in mind, too, that Antifa is no longer their own. As I reported in 2020, even Antifa was never a pro-Democratic Party thing. They were useful idiots for them. But they don't want Democrats or Republicans. They want a Marxist overthrow of the United States. So they have no problem arresting them. They accomplished the goal they needed them for. Now they're a nuisance and a liability. On that note, they did breach the perimeter the other night, and I have it on pretty good authority that if you breach the perimeter where the actual vice president is, you have to go to Washington, D.C. incommunicado for 2 years without a trial. And I haven't seen that happen yet.
Now they were actually wrestling these guys to the ground pretty good. I felt like
here's the thing, they're hiding a lot of that media coverage, but let me tell you what actually happened there. Once they breached that outer perimeter, the United States Capitol Police's tactical team materialized out of nowhere and put that down. They fought it back and reestablished a perimeter. You have to ask yourself.
Wait a minute. Whoa. You mean Pelosi's Praetorian Guard was there?
Yes, and they're not revealing that, but that's the truth. And the problem is, you have to ask yourself: is this really a good thing that the Capitol Police magically appears wherever they want? Their entire tactical team was there, and they are the ones who filled that gap and turned the tide the other night.
Well, they've established field offices for the Capitol Police all over the place. So
that's correct. And I have been talking ever since Obama that he has wanted to create a federal protective service for all and kind of turn the DHS into a national policing service. When he first tried it in his second term with the Federal Protective Service and expanding their patrols to beyond the federal, he was met with a lot of resistance. He's not getting met with any with the Capitol Police. So just watch for that, right?
Yeah. Your Arctic Boy for $2 Canadian, by the way, I have to say that. Hey, Joe, what happened to the SA in Germany again? He's talking about the Sturmabteilung, the SA, the stormtroopers. And we all know that the stormtroopers met a kind of a rather ignoble end at the hands of the SS.
Arguably, forgive me if I'm sorry, Joe. Didn't mean to step on you.
That's Hoss to you.
No, I was just going to say what you're probably about to say. I mean, once they stop being useful, then they get put in jail because they know that they have the ability to cause problems. It's really, this is not just an SA problem. This is going on throughout all of history.
Indeed. Arguably, what this demonstrates is that if they don't feel like policing some particular action well to actually stop it from becoming a larger problem, they won't do it. And if they feel like it, they'll do it.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess my exit question on this one to the council is: Are we expecting more today, and are you surprised with what we've seen thus far?
I can't speak to the protest side of this. All I'm going to speak to is the bullshit tsunami that's come out of the DNC.
Yeah.
I have never seen a more dysfunctional, dystopic sort of wave of nonsense from utterly incompetent people to a small group of people actually in attendance, but amplified by the megaphone of the media. And the fact that people are taking any of this seriously, and the Obamas last night were just ridiculous. But if you look at what's going on with the Harris-Walz ticket, this ticket ought to be renamed as sort of Stalin and Mao. This is absolute communism. We're back to taxing unrealized capital gains.
Yeah, we've got an entire segment about that, actually.
In policy prescriptions, I 100% agree. In competency levels, I don't know that we're quite there.
Right. The communists in the Soviet Union are way more competent than what we're seeing out of the DNC thus far. It's essentially the DNC is reminding us, oh yeah, she actually isn't that popular, and they're reminding regular people that as well.
I'll point out once again that if I get killed by an incompetent person, I'm still dead.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm not saying that that's not true, Joe. I'm just saying that my thought was that this DNC was going to be an attempt to try to mollify the populace, to keep this within the margin of the potential steal, right? It's not doing that at all. They're going hard to the left, and that tells me that they've got something else in mind as it relates to the capacity to manipulate this election. And that difference may very well be something on the order of the 7 to 10 million illegals who are motor voter registered to vote. So
yeah, they're going to need 8 counties instead of 4. You're 100% right.
I understand, but you need to really understand where this goes. I don't know. I haven't seen polling numbers on control of the House. I know that we're going to be nip and tuck in the Senate, but if you end up in a situation where the Democrats run the table in this coming election, which is what their goal is, then there's no avoiding. I don't think there just aren't that many people who want the country to be turned into Detroit or Newark or New York or San Francisco or Philadelphia or Baltimore or any of these hellhole blue or San Francisco for that matter, or LA for that matter, in terms of the sort of failed states or failed.
You run the risk of actual people actually deciding that they're going to resist the federal government.
So I have a question in regards to this. Is given what we saw 4 years ago, approximately, does the number of people who understand that that's where we're headed and are willing to actually do something equate to a number of people who are willing to stop this? Like, are there enough people who are actually paying attention, willing to get up and stop this? And is that going to matter?
I think as we've talked about here on many occasions, I think, and I see it anecdotally to a great degree, the number of people whose normalcy bias is burning off is increasing. I don't know that it's happening fast enough. There's big swaths of the country that are just still, there's this video meme floating around of chicks on a train with the world burning down around it, and they're looking at their phones and that sort of stuff. And that's really painfully accurate in many respects. But we'll just have to see. I think it's going to vary significantly by region. That's been my thought all along. That's a very subdued way of saying what I've said all along. But I mean, I think that region by region, the response is going to be vastly different.
That probably has nothing to do with the reason you're out in Montana, does it?
No, nothing.
There's a light switch. The lights switch, and as long as Netflix keeps playing, a lot of people are just going to kind of shrug their shoulders. But we need more people to actually pay attention and see what's going on.
Well, Joe, not to bring up Rome again, but bread and circus, right? I mean, this is exactly what a lot of this type of cheap or free entertainment is bread and circus.
Well, but it's actually bilateral, Scott, and so there's the mouth breather attention gathering devices like Netflix and Prime Video and so forth. And on the other hand, there's the active psyops to push people back into the matrix. And a great example of that was yesterday with the news that was released about Joe Biden has reallocated the nuclear command to focus on China. Oh, and Russia. Oh, and North Korea. That is the largest bullshit story I have seen in months. Okay, we have got various scenarios for almost any outcome in the context of the deployment of the nuclear forces, and the fact that they decided to release that as if Joe Biden actually did any of this, all it is a psyop to condition the populace for what's coming or what they may want to have coming in the context of conflict. And just keep people off balance. That's all it is.
Well-armed corgi actually may have a point here. The silent majority will always be silent. The silent majority will never move the needle of history. Unfortunately, a considerable majority of the populace will always kind of support from the sidelines, right? Even if some number of people do actively resist tyranny, most of the people who support their actions will only support from the sidelines.
Without into it, because I don't want anyone to show up at my house at 4 a.m. I will point out that there was a point in history when a very small minority, some might say 3% of the population, threw off the yoke, and it benefited the entire world for hundreds of years to follow.
Well, gentlemen, this is probably the moment at which, when OG Ron shows up in the chat, and I know it's time for me to make my exit.
Morning, Ron. How are you, buddy?
Gentlemen, I leave the chat in your able hands. I appreciate you guys being here. I have got to beg off as I have to get up in not too many hours from now, and so I'm unable to stay up late.
And do army training, sir.
And,
I don't know what you're talking about.
And I laugh in NCO at the officer who has to go to bed early.
No, it's not early. It's just it is almost midnight here. I mean, so it's not like I'm going to bed at 9. The problem is
they have the sergeant of the watch has this.
They have a tendency to call me in the middle of the night and ask me to come in and look at something, and I'm asking, okay, what do I need to look at? Oh, well, never mind, sir. It's it's fine now. Oh, well, great. Then why the fuck did you call me? All right, gents, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys, and thank you to you in the chat. Make sure you treat these guys right. Thank you all. Guys, that's all I got. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hey, Ron, come on in.
He needs a competent NCO. Come on in, Ron.
Oh, boy.
All right, Watcher, what's next?
Well, next is me making sure you guys can hear me.
I can hear Watcher talking. It sounds incredibly quiet.
Yeah, I can't distinguish anything he's saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear him at all. So
every time I try and fix the issue, it makes it worse. I'll be right back. Promise.
While Watcher figures that out, I think this is a good moment to pan. There is a link that is pinned in the chat. Our good friend Don the Pleb, in case you haven't heard, was no-knock raided by the FBI. He is alive. He is okay. His family is okay. Everyone is alive, including his dogs, which is of note given the FBI. If you have any spare change, the beginning of the legal fight is just now happening. Please donate to him. GiveSendGo.com/DonThePleb. That's GiveSendGo.com/DonThePleb. He could definitely use your help.
All right. Thank you, Hunter.
In that same vein, Joe.
Yeah.
Anything going on?
I do. I know, but this is actually all of our problem. right? And Stan's been the biggest advocate for this all along, that those people who have been charged in this are actually a proxy for the rest of us. So don't think this is only a Don problem. It is Don today and the rest of us tomorrow. So we need to fight this battle now while we can, and fight it in the courts the right way for Don's Fed, who is probably still listening. Anyhow, this weekend I have a community security class down in North Carolina at the Brush Beater Training Center, where we are going to talk about how to community or neighborhood in month for a fieldcraft class where.
So does this class have anything to do with
without your phone in your hand?
Hey, Joe, Hoss, does this class have anything to do with clear communication over radio waves? Because it's failing right now. I'm just saying, you need to get to a spot where you've got coverage, pal. I know you're in Ohio. Hello? We are experiencing technical difficulties.
There's a little bit of a lack of helmsman at the helm, it seems. Well, Watcher, wondering if you got anything squared away as far as that goes, or if you want, you can put up the next topic, and I can do my best to try to introduce it.
Oh, you back, Joe?
I think so. I hate Ohio, but anyway, what was the question?
The question was, does this upcoming class have anything to do with clarity of communication over radio waves?
Oh,
we have a Watcher.
Oh man, 100%. And for the record, we have a project to do. You and I have. So.
Oh man.
There goes Joe.
Yeah, sorry, Joe, but every time you try and talk, it gets you. By the way, in case I'm sure that there's a Don out there curious. Yes, I am still using Don's homemade mounts for Marines. Oh boy. Okay, gents, let's get into this next one. Now, I want to clarify. Unlike yesterday, I did not get to write the notes. Scott wrote the notes. Did the first story and then ditched. So let's find out what Scott thought was important today. Hold on, I gotta reshare again. So, Kursk incursion lifts Ukraine's hopes, but some expect nightmare in Donbass. You don't say.
Can I take this?
Yeah, go ahead.
When the Kursk incursion started, I labeled it the equivalent of the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, and I think that's what this has turned out to be. It was the last throw of the dice for the Wehrmacht. It achieved some tactical surprise, but had no strategic impact on the outcome of the war. And I think that's where we are now today. I've seen staggering numbers from sources that I trust of what were Ukrainian frontline units that have been nearly liquidated in this. And so you have to ask yourself the question, why? Did they think they were going to trade Kursk for Crimea? Or what was the thought process behind this? Because in the meantime, the Russians are pushing their guts out in the Donbass. And that line looks to be about to crumble. So look for it to get really kinky here as the NATO-inspired Kursk incursion falls apart, and they're left with nothing left but direct escalation in this conflict. And I think that's what we need to be concerned about, is the Poles get jumpy and go into Belarus, or something else silly happens with respect to the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia, or some other sort of desperate throw of the dice by the Ukrainians here, because they've been moving in small units throughout this area, trying to cause trouble, and they've been getting rolled up rather quickly.
I have a lot of curiosity about what in the hell was the goal here. I understand the visceral stated goal, which was, you invade our country, we'll invade your country, which is still retarded, even from that perspective. What I really don't understand, though, is that at the moment when your support globally is teetering on the brink of non-existence, and you've got countries like Germany saying that they're going to ban all future support for war efforts in Ukraine, that now is the time to launch an offensive.
Yeah, I think this is all OTAN driven. To be honest with you, I think this was the sand tables and OTAN had decided that this was the throw of the dice that they wanted to use. I keep seeing reports of all sorts of various mercenaries accompanying Ukrainian units in these actions, and it walks and talks and feels like something. And an increasing number of M1 Abrams tanks on the Donbass line being blown out hulks. So I think things are going bad, and I think we're going to reach a point here before the election where this sort of gets to a crescendo. There's going to be some incredibly stupid action on behalf of either OTAN or the Ukrainians to try to save this situation. And I think it's going to be difficult to respond to.
To steal a term from physics, stupid action at a distance.
Yeah, except this is not quantum in any way, shape, or form. So we'll see. I'm watching what's going on in the Middle East, but I think there's enough souk mentality in the Middle East to avoid a conflict for right now. And that really depends upon the Fed still printing money so that Joe Biden can send pallets of cash to Tehran. But because Blinky wants his Nobel Prize before he leaves, and I really worry about what's going on or Eastern Europe now. I think writ large is the greater description of the theater. So we'll see.
All right, and then apparently we can't just turn off of the Ukraine story. We also have a video here, real quick, which is the work of a Marauder IVF of the 95th Brigade of Ukraine in the Kursk region. And this is kind of an interesting
Martyr, not Marauder,
or Marauder, Martyr.
Which is ironic because it sounds awful lot like martyr.
Mm-hmm. So there we have it. I think that's our last Ukraine story. Let me check. Pretty please.
I have a question as my
username now. With videos of.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sure that the Russians who live there have no bad memories or concerns about German fighting vehicles on Russian soil.
Yeah, none whatsoever.
Well, they're disappearing rather rapidly, so that'll be short term. I don't think this is the last Ukraine story. Maybe it is for today, but I think that this is going to spin out rather dramatically, because I think the Russians have decided they have no interest in peace talks at this point.
Yeah, well, I unfortunately, you are correct. It was not the last Ukraine story, and the last one illustrates what you just had to say, unfortunately. So, Ukraine war latest. Kiev is now targeting Moscow with largest ever drone attack as Kursk incursion continues.
Which has literally no tactical value whatsoever. It's the Instagram war.
Yeah, it's the Billy Mitchell raid on Tokyo. It's all it is.
Exactly.
Air defense has destroyed at least 11 drones headed for Moscow and 45 in total across the country.
If those drones had instead been used in the Donbass on the front line, they might have made a difference. Instead, we're throwing them away for the lulz. Look, we hit Moscow.
I'm not, the point is...
Oh, trust me, they're using your tax dollars.
I understand. But the point is that they're left with just these sort of grand propaganda exercises. And so what they're going to be doing is trading drone strikes for Kinzals, because that's what's coming back in response. So I don't know who's in charge at this point as it relates to the grand strategy with respect to Ukraine. But I also note that there's certain things that you're seeing coming out of various Western capitals, and I think that the fabricated story of the saga of Nord Stream was part of this. They are positioning Zelensky to exit stage left, one way or another. I think they've decided they've wrung all the juice out of that lemon they're going to get, and there is a thought process about what happens next in Ukraine.
Well, by which you mean
right
the
on
pigs
down
are
to
lining
the-
up at the trough.
It's right on down to the wording on Germany's alleged warrant for an unknown Ukrainian soldier named Volodymyr Z. I mean, that was a dig at Zelensky directly.
Yeah. But I think we all know, if you watch the show, I think we all know that the fact that you thought that 3 drunken Ukrainians on a sailboat were able to execute this is, I think that just tells you what they think of your intellect, if they think you're going to believe that.
An American ARG to post itself right over the bomb, and an American combat air patrol along the whole length of it to keep everyone away. How lucky for these 4 drunken Ukrainians on a sailboat, right?
Well, they're going to go, those 4 drunken Ukrainians on a sailboat go on a shelf with Lee Harvey Oswald and this kid from Pennsylvania and Jack Ruby and other useful idiots that have been used, as sops for public consumption. So.
Hey, that reminds me, the show has to take a victory lap on that. Everyone saw the media breaking the story of Matthew Crooks having been shot by the local police. Told you that the day after it happened. Got that from actual officer on scene, but everyone pretended like that didn't happen until yesterday. So,
facts. One more thing here, I guess. Russia summons U.S. envoy over presence of American mercenaries and CNN crew in Kursk region. So they couldn't just send the mercenaries; they also had to send the media team for the Stunning and Brave documentary.
Well, how does the mercenary company get to advertise? But like I said, Russia's card just before the election is trotting out a bunch of British companies that captured in Kursk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you know what happened to Gonzalo. What was his name? Gonzalo Lira, right?
Yes.
We'll see what happens to these guys.
Well, I mean, fortunately for them, they were taken by the Russians.
So they'll be traded for some other Russian guy that we have in captivity.
There you go.
Hey, keep in mind the Canadian general that never was is still in Russian hands.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever coming back. You know what, the guy in the basement of the steel plant in Mariupol? Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one that tried to hop out on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fellas, I have to go make the donuts this morning.
Oof, that is an enviable task.
So I'm going to leave it with you there. You guys take care. Oh, I see Sniper's back. That's a good thing. Haas is back. And Haas, if you're uncomfortable with your new nomenclature, we can always go back to Little Joe. That was the other character on Ponderosa that might but we've decided that Old Hong Kong is going to be Hop Sing. So we thought that was appropriate as well. So by the time you're out here, we'll have nicknames for everybody in the Ponderosa state. And enjoy North Carolina and drive safely on your way out here. We'll see you soon. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you later.
You too. Thanks for coming by.
Bye-bye.
Oh, well, all right, boys. That's we slogged through our Russia-Ukraine conflict stuff. Thought it was mighty bold of Scott to saddle the four of us with covering the one topic we absolutely would not have covered voluntarily. But alas, we find ourselves here, boys. And now we can finally move on to. Oh yeah, well,
but did Stan bring up the fact that as much as we want to say this was NATO's idea to do the curse thing, effectively Europe is walking away right now as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah. I was hoping to talk about that a little bit, but yeah, I have no idea who thought this was a good idea. Joe is back.
Every time I mention that Canadian general, I get booted off the internet. You know,
that's weird. Yeah, it's odd.
It's relevant. Because, Germany made their statement of we're done. The French will follow them because the French's lesson of World War II is hug Germany so tight that they pop for forever. And nobody else really wants to turn this into a Europe versus Russia war.
Yeah, I'm not sure what more to say about it at the moment.
Oh, I don't know. I think the globalists do. There are two people who don't play along in the globalist game, and their names are Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. It's not that they're not globalists; they just want to be in charge. So there is that.
There's definitely truth to that part. But it seems like we're the only ones that think it's a really good idea because like I said, Germany. There goes France. The guys that have 20 tanks in Europe seem to want out of this, and I find that interesting.
Yep, facts. All right. Well, like I was saying, moving on. We now have the second topic, which again I did not pick. I apologize, chat. As though you did not already have this hanging over your heads and in your minds constantly. We're now apparently going to take a look at what a Harris administration could look like. Hooray!
I'm gonna have to ask you not to swear like that.
I know. Harris and Trump offer worlds apart contrasts on top issues in presidential race, which is hilarious that American Pravda would say, because no, actually, Kamala appears to just be essentially taking what Trump says and I'll do more.
I'll do that, but bigger. I was actually going to say the same thing, Watcher. Funny you should mention.
Vice President Kamala Harris has replaced President Joe Biden atop the presidential ticket. I don't know if replaced is the right word there. I think
installed instead of
subsumed.
Hot swapped.
Yeah.
Subsumed sounds good, but I would say overthrown.
Yeah.
That might imply that Kamala did the overthrowing, and I don't know that that's true.
But his finish the job campaign mantra can still largely apply to her top policy goals. I don't, careful there, AP. I'm not sure she would appreciate you tying in with him in any way. She promises to continue a lot of what Biden was doing during the past 4 years if she's elected to 4 of her own.
Which, for the record, is nothing.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know that that's true.
Causing a lot of pain.
Biden specifically has been doing nothing. Now, the government is not exactly the same thing.
You know what, Joe? I think we're on the same page. I'm right there with you.
Let's see here. Former President Donald Trump, for his part, is itching to get back to the White House and accomplish what he didn't during his first term. Since Biden stepped down last month, the vice president has announced few major policy proposals beyond a new push for to prevent price gouging by food producers.
You know, it's funny that she said. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Watcher.
Oh, you're good.
So it's funny that they say itching to get back in the White House and accomplish what he didn't, and then they immediately go into, yeah, we're going to enact communism. So what you're saying is Kamala's job is to perform the coup de grace on the United States. That's what they're saying.
Kind of seems like it.
Yeah, and to continue doing whatever Joe Biden doing basically means whatever Obama tells them to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's fitting, given that you say that, Joe. Given that she basically got an Obama-style campaign poster that came out just recently. Like, you could have just taken Obama's campaign poster and copy-pasted Kamala Harris over the top of it, and it's the same one.
So, moving on, despite her lack of specifics on policy.
Oh, sorry. I was talking and I was muted. Let me point this out. That specific poster, even Barack Obama. Now, 3 people have used it: Barack Obama, AOC, and now Kamala Harris. It works better for Harris and AOC than it did Obama, but it's actually stolen from Eva Perón back in Argentina back in the day. And I posted on Twitter just a couple days ago a side-by-side of Kamala's poster and Ava's, and they're almost identical. I did the same thing when AOC ran. But I will point something out, that while Eva Perón was a socialist, she was a national socialist, a literal Nazi. So anyway, that's where that style comes from.
Argentina doing Argentina things.
Seems Germany is everywhere these days.
Yep. So even though Kamala Harris's campaign website doesn't have policy prescriptions, is my understanding, it sounds like the AP is simply writing her policy prescriptions for her.
Not necessarily. So I was just trying to get a hold on that. Here's what's going on here. These are 10 issues that the AP says are 10 top issues. There's no other qualifier for that. It's not 10 top issues as voted by anyone. It's likely just literally what Will Wessert, Jill Colvin, and Seungmin Kim think are things they can angle themselves for. I don't know. So, in their estimation, abortion, climate / energy, which democracy, rule of law, federal government, we'll get into that, immigration, Israel, Gaza, LGBTQ plus issues, NATO, Ukraine, tariff trade. Well, I'm going to stop you right there. First of all, NATO, Ukraine polls consistently not even in the top 10 of issues. That's nobody cares.
Well,
other than hey, let's stop paying them. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, obviously the establishment cares about
it. Because that's how they get the Raytheon stock to go up, but nobody else cares.
Yeah. So I think, look, guys, I think that they've made it obvious from the mobile abortion van, which, by the way, 25 fewer Democrats and counting. The mobile abortion van pulled up outside, giving out abortions and vasectomies. That they want to make this the number one issue because I think that they get that it's the only issue they get any kind of visceral win on from their side. I don't think they realize that it polls a lot less popular than it has in a very long time. I don't know. I think we should all remember that they're not actually trying to win an election. What they're trying to do is find credible reasons to say when they steal it that this is, oh, well, obviously it was because of abortion.
I mean, there's that. they've got to make it feasible, because right now it's not.
I think they're trying to. I don't know that they're going to reach a confluence of feasibility. And I will pose a question that Pleb, who was here earlier, who is not here to ask. What happens if they just do, like, I don't know, trillion votes? Like what is the outcome of that going to be? Because I don't know anybody has a good answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do. I've kind of seen the way that people are talking. And by people, I mean, I've seen state reps from multiple different places talking about the fact that, if this happens again, there are things that the states can do, such as pull their own electors and essentially say, hey, this is an invalid election. And I think what you're going to be left with is a lot of mush and confusion, and a lot of enemies capitalizing on that mush and confusion. I think that the confusion itself, the lack of decisive leadership, I think all of that is the goal of the various forces that are funding, poking, and prodding to force us into the situation we are now in.
All I can say about those states who are talking about pulling their electors, or the potential thereof, I have two words: no balls.
Well, under more normal circumstances, I would agree with you and probably Don on this. However, take a look at the federal court docket. There are more states suing the federal government right now than there has been in years. In fact, Utah, believe it or not, just entered a lawsuit yesterday.
Look, people count this as optimistic, but it matches a behavior pattern.
I hope that translates into something and not just.
Here's what it translates into largely.
You go first. You go first, Washer.
I don't think it's going to be enough to kill any kind of election one way or the other. What it does is it casts doubt on the election from all kinds of perspectives. When you have states saying, hey, the invalidity of X much larger state, the invalidity of their election, which is obvious, invalidates our votes, and therefore this is not a fair election. It takes away their clean victory, which honestly, when we're talking about a situation like this, is one of the few things you can do.
So Hunter, in the ways that you want it to, no, it won't, because it will be a muddled mess. But it will be a muddled mess, which is not what you got from the state governments last time. They will make it messy. They will. The different states will do different things. Some of them will be dumb. Some of them will not be as dumb. But it will make it such a mess that basically all you can hope for is the takeaway of any mandate over it.
I'm gonna go back just a second there and say most of it will be dumb. Almost all of it will be very dumb, because it's look here's a sad fact. I guess sad, quote unquote. It's beautiful in its own way, and I actually do enjoy it. I've talked about this many a time. Part of what the Democrats have is that they actually do have like top-down instituted leadership throughout all of their many even smaller organizations that they use in order to prop up what they've got going on. The right has not only no such leadership structures, but also no accompanying organizations. What they have instead are a lot of very brilliant, very individualistic, very driven people who all push in their own myriad thousand different ways. There's no conference where everybody comes together and makes sure that we're all saying the right things. There's none of that. And in fact, it's part of our very ideology that that we're never going to have that sort of disciplined, over-the-top messaging apparatus. But because of that, what we get instead is this giant laboratory for figuring out what the most effective pushback is, because people do a bunch of retarded shit. And then eventually, when a good strategy is landed on, people eventually stack on behind it. It takes some time, generally, but it does happen. Yes, I think generally what we're going to see is the states that have taken an actual interest in, we will say, securing their own elections. Many of them have made provisions for, well, what happens if other states do not?
Indeed. On that note, I unfortunately have to say goodbye for the morning. I will be here Friday, but I do need to get moving for work.
Appreciate you.
No worries. Take care, guys.
Yeah,
so
thanks,
I'm going to
Hunter.
go through the rest of these. Oh, thanks. I'm going to go through the rest of these just because, as has been mentioned, the Biden-Harris website does not even have policy statements yet, even though we are voting in, let's see, 8.
Well,
3 months?
I believe
3 months.
I believe she's also not speaking at the DNC because they do not want to put her in front of a microphone.
Oh yeah. I also think that they can't, even with the small crowds we saw, there were multiple breaches of the security fence. So I'm not sure that even with the numbers that they have, they're able to ensure security at the facility when she gets there. So I'm not going to be surprised if she just flat out skips the entire event. But so here's what the AP has done. So the AP has kind of done some projection. And given who it comes from, there's a good and decent chance that these are the 10 things that that they will actually try and drive at. So abortion, they're going to try and make it federally mandated that every state, all 50 states, must have abortion. Basically, any restrictions on abortion would be against the law. Whereas Trump, essentially, we're already where we're at. Trump says he will not sign a national abortion ban. So they try and go into, he wouldn't say whether to try to limit. Well, that's likely because he doesn't know much about it, and he's going to leave that to experts. So, climate and energy. Yeah, we all know how that's going to go. Gentlemen, anybody want to take a stab at this other than saying one person wants to actually allow domestic energy production and the other side has made it a policy to destroy it?
I mean, it was Solera was the big mess that Obama did with solar panels. Solyndra. Okay. You're going to see Solyndra 2.0 or actually probably at this point 3.0 if you really get down to it. Part of this is just corruption. It's how they continue to enrich themselves, while we get poorer. They will definitely come after fracking and oil, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can kiss anything nuclear goodbye.
Yeah. Well, so I want to address something from the chat. Well, Corgi says, left has no qualms with sending a tactical team to round up state reps or even governors if they get out of hand. While I think that's true, I also think that if you look at, let me preface this. I have no inside information other than what you guys all know. I have no inside information whatsoever. However, if you look at the latest batch of January 6th raids and the way that the FBI carried those out and the differences between those and earlier FBI raids, if you look at what local law enforcement and local federal law enforcement even's response has been in those situations, I would say that there have been some pretty distinct well, let me just cut around the bush. It looks as though many local and even local federal law enforcement individuals are pretty fucking done with this. So I don't think that goes the way a lot of people just assume, that there's just full top-down control of all those, and I don't think that's true.
I mean, we're back to, honestly, that puts us back to a 2020 discussion. If they roll tanks on a governor's mansion or a state house, you have a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, that's.
And I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that. I don't think this is the timeline. Nah. Hey, Joe, how's your connection?
Stupid. I mean, I'm practically in downtown Columbus, and it really will not stay connected. But hey, what's up?
Oh, nothing. We're just walking through this list of things the AP thinks are important. Next is democracy, rule of law. I'll note that they put that third under abortion and climate. So,
Well, for them, that just means outlawing Republicans.
Pretty much.
Well, it's really rich for them to talk about rule of law when they want one-sided prosecutions. They want literally no prosecutions for rape and murder in some regards, and then over-the-top ones for trespassing.
Yeah. A lot of people are making a lot of historic things here. Didn't Lincoln have a bunch of... Yeah, had a lot of state legislators arrested from almost every state, actually.
Hey, Gretchen Whitmer won her election because her opponent got locked up for January 6th, days before the election.
Yeah. So next we've got federal government. Look, this just represents how fucking terrified they are that he's actually going to get in and hold people accountable for the actions that they've taken against himself and the rest of the U.S. citizenry. And we might as well take a minute about it because you can tell I've multiple speeches from multiple different representatives. They are legitimately terrified about. Anybody?
I mean, if it depends on who he picks to go in with him, but yeah, it could be, and honestly, it should be scary for them. But I think the only person that has a proper bead on a lot of this, though, would have been Vivek if we could trust him, because of how the Civil Service Protection Act and what have you works. Your only recourse is mass layoffs, but a lot of that, whether that's a legitimate fear or not, depends on who he's got going in with him.
Good point, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I agree with Sniper, but I'm all about mass layoffs in the federal government. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are hung up on this whole protections that they put for federal workers. I think a lot of people forget that a lot of those don't apply if your department just gets deemed that it doesn't exist anymore. And
exactly.
Hey, who gets to do those decisions? Boy, that would be the chief executive. Weird. Next, immigration. I think it's hilarious that this situation has essentially forced Harris to admit that they fucked up on immigration, or at least say that they believe that they fucked up on immigration.
To her credit, it's not like she was in charge of immigration and made the immigration czar, right? Oh,
right.
Whoops.
Yeah.
She owns this entirely.
Oh, right. Root causes. I haven't heard that. For a while. Root causes. Israel, Gaza. Which, boy, this is an interesting.
When they start talking immigration, they always say.
Oh, go ahead.
When it comes to immigration, they always want to talk about addressing the root cause of immigration, which is climate change or whatever, right? Rather than actually dealing with the real problem of people illegally forcing their way into our country.
Facts. Israel Gaza is an interesting one. From the leftist perspective, any support for Israel at all is entirely unacceptable and is equatable to what Donald Trump has called for, which is, hey, support Israel and just fucking wipe out Hamas. they kind of, on the left, view Harris and Biden as just as bad on the issue, which is hilarious because anybody who actually does support Israel being able to wipe out Hamas sees how unbelievably difficult, we'll just say, the current administration is being on that front. Anybody
let me just make a point, because I've been fighting with Nazis, literal Nazis, all week. It's entirely possible for me to be pro absolute destruction of Hamas and also be like, yeah, but I also don't like the Israeli government.
Facts.
I mean, the two things are not mutually exclusive, right? I can want Hamas literally destroyed along with Hezbollah. And someone said, well, who told you they were your enemies? They've killed friends of mine. They are enemies. I don't care.
Who told me they were my enemy? They did. They chanted into cameras every opportunity they get.
And by the way, those who say, well, listen, no, you guys got tricked into fighting a war, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I lived in Dearborn for a time. I've worked in Metro Detroit for over 25 years. Hezbollah and Hamas are a part of life in Metro Detroit, and it's not a net positive. They fundraise there. They have charities there. They hold events there, and they hate Americans. So there you go.
Facts. LGBTQ plus issues. I'll be honest. Fittingly, funnily enough, as this would probably have been top 3 if you would have asked them in 2020. It's been demoted down the list of prominence. It's down here near the bottom of the 10, isn't it?
What's interesting is they don't even see the intellectual combobulation you have to have internally to be pro-Hamas and pro-LGBT. Because those two things are literally the opposite of each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're gonna get into liberal brain rot, cognitive dissonance, we're gonna be here a long time. But yes, you are correct.
I mean, Iranian skydiving unavailable for comment.
You know, I will say that an interesting thing on this that I saw, an interesting tactic from the Trump campaign, has been to factually point out that that Trump was pro-LGBTQ and pro-gay marriage before either Hillary or Obama.
This is true.
Yeah, that's completely true. That's completely true.
But I mean, the way the really weird and interesting way this twists up though is that Iran is weirdly pro-trans in that they'll kill you for being gay unless you go have a tranny operation. Then they won't kill you because then you're straight, according to them.
Yes,
I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's the case.
It's a little more
they
complex.
Actually have promoted it.
It's a little more complex than what you're saying, and also none of their allies
they're saying
follow
is
the
sort
same
of
thing.
They say that because it's sort of a troll. If you really think that's what you are, go do this. And when they don't, then they kill them. So it's not that they actually mean it, but they're using hyperbole to prove their point. If you really feel that way, then go cut your junk off. Well, I don't want to. Okay, then off the building you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that part is definitely accurate.
Yeah. Moving on. NATO Ukraine. Basically, the difference being largely, from what I can tell, in the two stances. We should support Ukraine unilaterally, and the dying should stop. And I don't know, man. It's very interesting to see the pro-Ukraine position in recent weeks as all European support collapses and it moves from being a defensive war to an offensive war for Ukraine.
And that's also another one of those dichotomies. I can't support Ukraine unilaterally and have the dying stop.
Yeah. It's facts.
In all honesty, as we have said all along, a negotiated settlement is the best possible outcome here. There's no hard win. for Ukraine. There is a hard loss option, though.
Facts, and they're moving rapidly towards it. Tariffs and trade. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care anymore. I wish I could care about this shit, but I can't. Trump wants to try and institute tariffs, and I've seen a lot of people that know what they're talking about economically talk about what a terrible idea tariffs are. But then again, a lot of those same people who know what they're talking about economically are the same type of people who are like, oh yeah, no, let's completely sell out American values entirely for 10 less cents on a fucking hamburger.
But,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's the whole point, right? Everyone wants everything as cheap as they can, but we're literally the only country in the world that has no tariffs, right? It's silly on our part, right? We're not the World Bank. We need to preserve some sort of ability to supply and feed ourselves, and tariffs are a way to do that, a way to keep manufacturing here. If there's no cost benefit, then let me rephrase. The cost benefit is when there's no tariffs, it's easier to have things made in China and shipped back than it is to just make them here. And then we don't have that manufacturing capability. Hello, ammunition, right? Here we are in a big ammo shortage. So,
which is
I
about
think tariffs
to be worse.
do have a place.
Which we probably should have covered on the show as long as we're here. That ammo shortage is about to get worse. China just restricted one of the key components necessary for, I believe, primers.
Yeah, primers have been the problem for quite some time now.
Yeah, but I mean, as of the 19th is when that element is no longer being shipped.
In the background, you also have the Biden administration using the Defense Production Act and claiming a national security emergency to limit the amount of supplies available for making ammo. So
yeah,
there's a lot of different things going on, and I believe the intent is to drive the price of ammo up to where private ownership becomes cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
That's true. Now the flip side is on the trade thing, and when he said this, he was being imprecise. But Steve Bannon said a long time ago, you cannot have free trade with a government that is effectively a mercantilist government. They will abuse you for it. And he was referring to China. And like I said, it's imperfect language, but it does illustrate a point. You can't do free trade with a strategic enemy.
Yeah, I find it difficult to talk on this subject because I used to have my mind made up on it, and recently I have become more open-minded to the tariff argument. So, well, I'm not sure what I think about it.
The thing is, to do this and try and onshore things and rebuild our industrial base and what have you will have consequences here, and a lot of them will suck, especially for the next decade or so if you started today. But on the other side of it, we would be a much more secure nation.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the assumptions that were made in the past about that nations that trade together don't go to war are proving to have been false.
Patently false. Ukraine and Russia still have agreements to allow grain to be traded. So,
yeah. So it is what it is, folks. Taxes. They're trying to pull their dumb bullshit game. I haven't looked through it. All I know for sure is that I've seen a breakdown of it, and Trump's thing literally is it's the marshmallow game as far as the two tax plans being offered. You get more out of Trump's tax plans, but it takes longer to get. You get more up front out of Harris's tax plan, but you get less long term. So,
well, the big thing there is that Harris may or may not be going after unrealized gains again.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
So just those of you with a 401k, you better be saving all year long, because if your 401k goes up, even though you can't touch it, you're now going to have to pay taxes on the fact that it went up.
There's more than that. Look, man, If they go after this, it's so much more than like 401k and savings. It's ridiculous. Like the entire economy would implode overnight. You would see people who are currently running very successful companies purposefully bankrupt those companies overnight in order to be able to claim the loss and then walk away and retire.
You act like that might not be the plan.
So it's
It would destroy more. It would destroy more middle income and lower income people that have company run 401ks than it would them.
It would also end venture capital because then it becomes
Correct.
expensive to invest in literally anything.
Correct.
And here's the thing about unrealized capital gains taxes. So you're saying that at the end of the year, you're going to tax me as if I sold my 401k at the highest possible point during the year. And then you're going to do it again the next year, and then the next year, and then someday I'm actually going to take it out, and you're going to do it again.
Correct.
No,
it makes it more expensive to save.
works.
It makes it more expensive to save than to just live paycheck to paycheck, which is what they're trying to encourage.
How badly would the normal person be affected? The normal person with a 401k within 5 years would not have a 401k. It would destroy all retirement and force everybody onto Social Security. That seems to be the plan.
Very
universal basic income.
Yep, pretty much. Now, like Watcher said, you'd see a lot of the ultra wealthy would get hurt, but there's a way for them to parachute and only get hurt a little bit. It would destroy everybody at the bottom.
And hey, like, does your community need money for literally anything? Prepare for that to all dry up. But let's not get too sidetracked. As quoting a great comedy, but wait, there's more. Have you seen Kamala's proposed radical cabinet, gents? It is a veritable rogues gallery.
It is literally
the worst of the worst. Eric Holder, Rahm Emanuel. I could go on. I mean, basically, the only person that I could see on here that they haven't pulled out that's just like the absolute worst of the worst fucking people is Janet Reno.
Hold on. Now, Eric Holder, if I'm understanding correctly, has been found to have been in contempt of Congress, right?
Sure, yeah, but that only matters if
Steve Bannon's in jail for that.
I know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Loyalty tests, you know. It seems Obama is angling for a fourth term, which is why he's sidelined Biden in favor of Kamala Harris, the unpopular, inexperienced DEI diva who reportedly used her womanly ways to get ahead. Well, that's an interesting way of saying that Willie has confirmed that she fucked her way to the top.
Ahead, give ahead. What's the difference?
Yeah, there you go. We got a sneak peek at Kamala's proposed cabinet, and it's a who's who of Obama-era radicals, starting with head Marxist Eric Holder, Rahm Emanuel. Let's get some other names in here. Come on. I don't want to watch these videos. I don't know what they are, and I don't really care. We get it. We all understand what's happening. The only real question, I think, is whether they have it secured or whether they're doing a classic thing that they do a lot that a lot of people don't always get, is they're very good at the fake it till you make it thing. Pretend that you have everything in the bag, and then a lot of times your enemies give up because they assume that you have it in the bag. Oh, Janet Reno died in 2016. I missed a good party. Sad. But yeah, it's I don't know what else to say, guys. They've made it very clear what's happening. They're not interested in hiding it. They're not interested in even. Funnily enough, I mean, go ahead.
Speaking of Janet Reno, let's not let the day go by without pointing out that this is the anniversary of the murder of Vicki Weaver.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yep, I've seen a lot of art going around for that today, and
Some of it might have Don's face on it.
Some of it does have Don's face on it. That's correct.
But, by the way, yeah. I wasn't wigging out. I was just, oh Lord.
Hey, Tommy actually made it. I just shared it.
Tommy also did the Australian
guy. Okay, so it turns out there's one last segment here, guys, which is, what would a Harris administration foreign policy look like? These diplomats want to know. You know what? I
this
think
is where you insert Sauron going to war.
I think that's probably true, but I will say that I think even the Harris administration would also be curious, just like these diplomats, to know what their foreign policy will look like.
I mean,
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
I think it'll be splitting what Joe and I just said. Half of it'll be to war, and for the other half, it's gluck gluck gluck.
Well, yeah, I mean, prominent members of the Washington Diplomatic Corps said Tuesday that they don't expect the Kamala Harris presidency will differ much from the Biden administration. I wonder why.
Because she doesn't have an original idea in her head.
More importantly, that she's not actually going to be in charge.
Yup. That essentially the same people will continue to be in charge is what
Here's
we're
the
being
craziest
told.
thing. Here's the craziest thing. The people who say they're defending democracy are putting up someone who has never been elected. They're saying they're defending democracy. Biden was, if you went with pure democracy, Biden shouldn't have been the nominee in 2020, but he was. And yet they're upholding an unelected king in Barack Obama, who sits behind the scenes and has ran things the entire time. He even ran things while Donald Trump was president. And if you don't believe me, look at all the times Donald Trump ordered the federal government to do something, and it never happened.
Yep.
So you can't say you're defending democracy while you're upholding a behind-the-scenes kingmaker who is literally a dictator.
I mean, he's our Tony Blair. That's what he is.
No, he's our Stalin. He's worse than Tony Blair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So the rest of this just goes into various different people essentially saying the same things. They expect everything to be the same, but Harris has different experiences which could inform. None of it's going to change. None of it's going to change because they're not appointed by Harris. I'd be surprised if any of them there even is any shuffle over.
The funniest part, I do have to say, the funniest part of all this on the not elected thing was that last night in the first round of declarations, California, her own state, refused to declare for her. They didn't declare for the second round.
They were holding out hope for a Newsom step in.
Oh, they already got the white man minstrel show covered this time around, though. Indeed. All right, gents, that's it for me today. We're gonna end it slightly early, give you guys back some of your time. We appreciate your presence and support every day. It means a lot to us. I also appreciate that there were no super chats this show that I saw. I expect that all of that money can and should probably be going to Don's fundraising campaign to pay for various different legal fees that are going to be associated with this case. We've raised almost $9,000 for him already, but believe me when I say that is a fantastic chip in what is bound to be an unbelievable wall of debt created by this scenario, and we should do everything we can to help and support him. And so, we appreciate the heck out of you guys. I'm gonna go around the circle. Sniper, you got anything to say?
This might be a little politically incorrect of me to say right at this current moment, but holy shit, buy mags and ammo.
Yeah. Joe, anything for the guys before you leave?
Build community. Meet face to face. Stop using your phone for conversations you shouldn't use your phone for.
Facts. All right, folks. We'll see you Friday. Thanks for being here. And as Scott would say, stay safe.